Submission Radio standing here with Jon Anik ahead of UFC 312, brought to you by Manscaped. 20% off with the code word submission. Smooth balls, man. Who can argue with that? Jon Anik, I got to start this off by asking you, did you see the big announcement from Jon Jones just in the last 10 hours? He's had a big announcement about a big announcement coming. I mean, what could this big announcement be?
Well, if the announcement is not that he is fighting Tom Aspinall during International Fight Week this summer, then I'm not sure what our relative appetite is for said announcement. Now, certainly it stands to reason that there could be some major theatrical role or sponsorship agreement. I do believe that Jon Jones is going to make millions of dollars as an actor. I think the vocal quality, the appetite to act is such that he's going to do really well in that world. But can we all hope and pray and believe that Jon Jones v. Tom Aspinall to headline International Fight Week 2025? What am I missing?
He's like, I got a new pair of loafers, everyone, but they're comfortable. Yeah, I think if it's a sponsorship announcement, that's not good for the sponsor. I feel like people would be coming with their pitchforks. Man, speaking of pitchforks, Sean Strickland, he's really had a bit of an effect on Australia once again. Did you see his media day? Obviously, the open workout, the guy has no filter. But we love it down here, right? Everyone is loving it.
He had this entire nation eating out of his hands when he fought Israel Adesanya at UFC 293. And certainly we know about the history between Robert Whittaker and Izzy, and I think that backdrop allows for some Aussies to maybe root against Izzy in certain settings. But I do believe in a sport of unique individuals, Sean Strickland is one of one, and I think that's why he resonates with this fan base to such an extent, that he is the real article. He is true to himself. He's been able to sort of be himself and get away with it, even though maybe he walks up to that line, sometimes crosses it a little bit. But I do believe, humbly, not because I'm here, that the best mixed martial arts fans in the world in 2025 are the Aussies. You should see our fucking open workout on a Wednesday. It's insane. We don't even do those in the United States. So the fact that he has this fan base behind him is pretty exceptional.
You can't talk about who you think's going to win because you're going to be broadcasting on the night. But I want to ask you, obviously Khamzat is going to be here. He's doing some seminars in Australia. Everyone's basically here. You got Pereira in the other corner. DDP obviously wants to eventually fight Pereira, so that's going to be interesting. But then you got Khamzat, who'll probably be there on the night. Who do you think makes the toughest fight for Khamzat out of Sean or DDP? Out of those two, who's more likely to have a dominant win or a win over Khamzat, in your opinion?
Before they booked this rematch, I said my dream fight for 2025 was Dricus du Plessis versus Khamzat Chimaev. Can you imagine the chaos that would ensue if you locked the door behind those two individuals? So that would be the direction in which I would lean. I'm really fascinated and focused on this rematch this weekend, especially because I just watched back the first fight between Dricus du Plessis and Sean Strickland. And
who did you have winning that?
Well, it's moments, right? So when I watched it live calling it, I thought DDP won. But then when I watched it back, I did give Sean Strickland round 2 because I thought it was an effective striking round. And we're about to have our fighter meeting with Sean, and I think one of the points of conversation is going to be trying to avoid a late round takedown, because these are striking rounds in which Sean Strickland is getting a lot done. But a late takedown oftentimes can skew a judge's scorecard, even if I don't agree with the judges looking at that grappling as a criteria in that particular round. So.
But someone like DDP, his style, it's kind of wild, right? He moves forward into shots. He's unstoppable. He just never gives up. With a fighter like him, how long do you think you could do a style like that at the highest level? Is there a ceiling to it? Because obviously every single fight, you're taking your damage, you're moving into shots. It's not exactly the most strategic style. How long do you think we'll be able to have this version of DDP for before we see, an eventual decline like everybody else, all the ex-former champions?
It's a great question. I just don't see the decline. I really don't. In terms of sheer will to win in mixed martial arts and sort of having that like machine like Merab Dvalishvili quality, I think DDP is the only guy who is even in a conversation right now with Merab for me, and I think that fuels him. I think we use the adjective awkward to describe him, when for me it's really just instinctual. He just knows how to fight, so comfortable in combat. If I sit here and say I think DDP has the drive and desire and skill set and work ethic to supplant Anderson Silva eventually as the greatest middleweight of all time, that is going to make headlines. At one point I suggested that Izzy had supplanted Anderson and maybe came back from that a little bit. This is the best era of mixed martial arts. The middleweight division has never been stronger than it is right now on paper, and look what this guy is doing. So I think he can sustain for sure.
What's your reaction to Izzy, man? Obviously we're coming off the Saudi. He looked great in the first round, but it's just eventual. Age, time, all people being able to catch up to a strategy. There's so much tape out there on him.
Yeah. The tape has a lot to do with it. He's one of the greatest of all time, and his legacy is entrenched. And then you start to think about what are the reasons to fight on, your relative net worth. I don't think he needs money, but he is one of the biggest stars in the company. What is his appetite for a 3-round co-main event on pay-per-view against Brendan Allen right now? I can't answer that question.
That's what it would be, though, right? It would have to be
Yeah,
something like
I mean,
that.
I don't know that he would rather do a 5-round main event. I think the pay-per-view setting would make a lot of sense, and he's a huge driver. He probably makes a ton of money to show, and rightfully so, and he means big business. So I don't think this is the note upon which he wants to go out, but when you start to chase wins, when you start to chase a final green stripe on your Wikipedia page, it's easier said than done. There are no easy outs in this middleweight division, as I sort of just outlined, but the dude's the man. You know, he has a Michael Jordan-like aura about him, and I'm just very grateful to have had the chance to call all of his title fights.
Before you go, I just want to quickly ask you a few quick topics, and you just give me a yes or a no and a quick reason why. Belal Muhammad moves up to middleweight start of next year or towards the end of this year? Do you
Definitely not. No chance.
Islam Makhachev wants to be a 3-division champion. I'm not saying this year, but next year, do you think he's able to at least compete for his goal, get a second belt, and maybe go up for that middleweight belt?
As close as I am to Belal Muhammad, I don't know if Khabib and Islam would be on board with fighting Belal. And reciprocally, I don't think Belal would fight Islam. So right now, you got a problem.
Could he jump welterweight or just go straight to middleweight?
I mean, come on. Come on. Yes, I'm not going to put anything past the pound-for-pound king, but I do believe that my desire, if he can make the weight, is to see him cement himself unequivocally, irrefutably as the greatest lightweight of all time, and I think he's a win or two away from doing that.
Do you think we see Topuria defending his belt against Alex Volkanovski, or do you believe his next fight will be at 155?
I think it's going to be the two of those guys in a rematch. I think Volkanovski has deserved as much. They sort of laid the foundation for it. I know Ilia Topuria publicly doesn't have much of an appetite for it, but I do believe, without any inside information, that that is the fight that will be booked.
All right, and the most important question at the very end here, we know it's going to be probably Jon Jones and Tom Aspinall. Is Brock Lesnar making a comeback and becoming the UFC champion once again?
I love Brock Lesnar. Let's hope. I mean, why not, Brock? Come on back.
All right, it's going to be a triple threat between Tom Aspinall, Jon Jones, and Brock Lesnar. That is going to be the announcement from Jon Jones, I'm sure, in the next few hours. But in the meantime, the best man in the game, Jon Anik. Of course, the Anik and Florian podcast, one of the best out there, man. What an honor. Thank you so much.